So a couple of weeks ago, I made a video and I pulled up a couple of reviews of Dice Sweden over on Glassdoor. Now, Glassdoor is kind of like a LinkedIn type website where people can connect and look at what their market value is for the jobs that they're doing, look at other companies that are hiring, and basically just find jobs. So it's a job search engine pretty much. But you can also leave reviews for employers on said website, and that's where I pulled the couple of reviews from Dice Sweden. And I figured, you know what, let's delve a little bit deeper and go look again and find some more reviews from Dice Sweden, because the ones that I had pulled up had a common theme, and I wanted to see if that theme actually permeates throughout the 56 reviews here that have been left on or for the Dice Sweden company. Now, I'll leave a link in the description down below if you guys want to go and look at these reviews for yourself. You do have to make an account to be able to go and look at the reviews, but you guys will be able to see the reviews here. So it's up to you if you want to go and make an account and see and read the reviews for yourselves. So this person left a 5-star review. Be prepared for some late nights during releases, but that seems to be a pretty common theme in the game development world. No free food in the office every day. Okay, so that's like a con. I see. Highly creative environment, great colleagues, fun activities. Good. Messiest company I've ever worked for. Anonymous employee in Stockholm. So this is actually a current employee that wrote this review for more than 3 years. So they would not recommend. They have nothing set for the CEO approval, and they have a negative opinion on the business outlook. So pros: good pay. It's fun to be in the industry if you love video games. It's a good name to have on your CV. Cons: the horrible management and decision-making is abysmal. I have almost 20 years of experience and I've never worked in such a disorganized place where we redo the same thing over and over again due to a lack of vision and effective decision-making. This contributed to the worst work-life balance I had in my career so far. So advice to management: my best advice would be to restructure the management. Moving on. So this is also a current employee. So pros: good pay, competent teams, nice work processes, fun tools. Sometimes it feels like dev sentiment is not really heard by the publisher or not acted upon. So here's a little bit of shade at EA here, saying that they feel as though they're not being heard. Good to know. Moving on, current employee once again. So they do recommend CEO approval. Nothing here in business outlook is there's no opinion there. So pros: great colleagues, great pay and benefits. Cons: management have forgotten what a battlefield game is. Management ignore valid feedback and criticism from the developers. So advice to management: listen to your developers. This is actually a pretty good piece of feedback, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about management later in the video. Next, so this is a gameplay programmer. Current employee for more than 1 year, so they do not recommend working here. CEO approval, nothing, and business outlook is also negative. So pros: popular in the industry, big games. Cons: management has no idea what they are doing. Whew. So again, current employee. Pros: benefits, bonus, stock, various other benefits, big focus on diversity. Managers focus on personal growth, possible to move up towards other disciplines. Cons: red tape became too big. I just stumbled on a couple of words here, so not quite sure what this means, but I would imagine there's a lot of things that you have to like walk on eggshells pretty much. So not really clear here, but they do say that it's possible to move towards other disciplines, which is nice, I suppose. But then again, it can, I would imagine, lead to some people not being where they should be. Former employee for more than 8 years. So this is somebody that does not work over at DICE anymore. So they do recommend working there. CEO approval, nothing. Business outlook is good. So pros: salary bonuses, projects, good people, job safety. Cons: takes the fun out of making games. US structures and hierarchies, pushes towards specialization, bad people and managers, believes its own hype. Advice to management: don't manage, lead. So this is a very good piece of advice from somebody that was a project coordinator. So not like, somebody that was definitely in some type of a leadership position or had a lot on their plate in terms of dealing with many departments within the studio, I'd have to imagine. So pretty good piece of advice here, but we're starting to see a pretty common theme. Okay, so moving on. This is a current employee, more than 3 years. So pros: friendly colleagues and atmosphere, good benefits. Cons: top heavy decision making. Most of the time, it feels like someone high above decided something, and that is the law. When employees bring up feedback, it's already too late because EA already signed off on it. Problem is that they tend to sign off on something completely over-scoped. Advice to management: be agile, listen to developers more, don't make games based on trailers, make trailers based on games. So again, very good piece of advice here. You can see that the developers, the people that are working there, feel as though they're not being listened to by upper management, and that a lot of the decisions are made by suits that have absolutely no idea what kind of work is going to go into bringing their ideas to fruition or to the game that they're working on. So, current employee, more than 1 year. Pros: the people, at least in my team, are excellent and fun to work with. The problems you face as an engineer are challenging and at the forefront of the industry. Working with something you like is fun. Cons: the engine is very unstable. Things break everywhere all the time. Referring to the Frostbite engine here, I'd have to imagine the infrastructure is a bit iffy. For example, we just have one branch for a game with everyone essentially pushing to master, and then the latest version to use isn't head, which is always broken, but rather the last successful nightly build, which you get with a script. The career progression is slow, experience is measured by years in the industry rather than performance, which this can lead to a lot of issues because, yeah, obviously when you're working at some place for a long time, you expect some kind of opportunity to move upwards, but if you aren't performing well at your job, if you suck at your job, you shouldn't get a promotion and be put into a position of power or management if you have no clue what you're doing. So something of note here that they prioritize seniority in the company over job performance or skills. Okay, let's move to the second page. I have no filters here. I'm just like going through the different pages. Full of potential, great company. Great people, amazing benefits. Cons: quite a lot of talent have left since joining, which we saw a mass exodus of employees over the past couple of years. Some longtime DICE developers leave for probably greener pastures. Pros: had a very good time. Cons: some politics in the office. Can't really talk about that. I mean, it is what it is, I guess. Great place to work at, but different from what it used to be. So, pointing towards the overall opinion that DICE is not the studio that it used to be. So pros: awesome people with high levels of skill and self-responsibility. Cons: decline of push for leading the industry over the past years, getting more and more corporate and less creative freedom. Not too good, and we can see that with them chasing trends with Battlefield 2042. Oh, 2-star, current employee, more than 1 year. Great benefits, but stressful work environment. Pros: company provides amazing benefits to their employees, and you are amongst highly talented developers, especially during COVID times. The company offers a lot of additional support in the form of extra time off, financial support, and free access to life coaches and therapists. That's awesome. The people in the development team are the best part of working at the company. Cons: the work environment can often be toxic with bad displays of behavior, especially in the leadership ranks. There's a general lack of compassion from the top down where you are really made to feel like you are just a resource that is there to deliver results. A lack of clarity and direction in the products make the development process chaotic, frustrating, and leads to crunch. Overall, good place to work. Pros: opportunities for growth, good salary. I feel like I already read this. Oh, potential for overtime, occasionally stressful, so we hadn't read that. Senior concept artist at DICE, so they don't recommend working there, so that's a former employee. Pros: good salary and bonus options. Cons: a lot of politics, having to work with EA. Oh, that makes me laugh. That is a good one right there, having to work with EA. That must be, that must be something. Former employee, again, more than 8 years, excellence benefits, but uninspiring work. Pros: benefits are great and colleagues are nice. Cons: hierarchy and nepotism has led to many poor decisions. Advice to management: promote based on skill, not based on service. So nepotism here, that is a nice little tidbit of information. So if we go and look at the definition for nepotism, so the practice among those with power of influence of favoring relatives or friends, especially by giving them jobs. So this has been echoed in other videos and people speaking that friends and family were given higher positions in the company because they are in fact friends or family, even though they might not be right for the job and have no skills whatsoever. So you can see how this could lead to issues in game development. So this person said, do not see real cons. So this was a senior software engineer in Stockholm and is a current employee. Great. So this is a current employee less than 1 year. So I recently started at DICE and can mostly just comment on the recruitment and onboarding process. So not there that long. Cons, so far nothing major that I've found, but I'm sure every place out there have their quirks that I have not been exposed to yet. Current employee more than 5 years. Good company to work at. Pros, lots of passion, people wanting to create great realistic shooter games. Good benefits with yearly performance bonuses, chance of stock bonus, pension, Friday breakfast buffets, health benefits, 400 USD a year, free massages every 3rd week, company parties and bars. Frostbite engine is a powerhouse when finely tuned. Cons, oh, okay. Low salary, history of slow decision making, lack of accountability within leadership. Okay, that is interesting right there. Rare for other settings or styles other than realistic shooters. Stockholm is an expensive city to live in. Frostbite engine lacks community support. So advice to management: higher salary for employees to counter expensive living in Stockholm. There has been improvements, but DICE needs better planning and production design. So starting to see the flaws in planning out games, which from what I've heard and read was the case for Battlefield 2042, because it was initially slated to be like a hero type shooter extraction royale game or battle royale or something like that, and then they scrapped that halfway, and so it led to not having a whole lot of time to work on the actual game, All Out Warfare and all that. So we're going to read just a couple more here. So love working here. No real cons. Company is driven by passion. Good. Advice to management: work on effective decision making and spread business understanding across all areas. So even though this person gave it a 5-star review and no real cons, they're still echoing what everybody says, that this management should work on effective decision making. Oh my God, 2 stars. Stay away for the time being. So they don't recommend it, obviously. Oh my God, look at this. Look at this Bible of freaking feedback. Oh my God. So, okay, so the pros: good work hours and pay, production figured out, a better alternative to crunching that is much easier on the body. So, okay, moving on to cons, because this is like, geez, that is a big ass paragraph. So we're going to try and go through it real quick, and then we're going to probably end the video because it's already too long as it is. So cons. Cronyism and nepotism are huge problems. The previous generation of leadership is reaching retirement age and began passing the torch over a year ago. How they selected the current generation is not clear, but it isn't working at all. What features make it into the game or get development time isn't dependent on how they'll improve the game, but on who has your back. This is especially troublesome because current leadership, or rather the couple of people at the top, is obsessed with executing their vision at the expense of everything else. So being a visionary isn't necessarily a bad thing, but they have failed to inspire confidence in that vision. Instead, they did the exact opposite by forbidding negative criticism and discussion as their way of addressing low morale and skepticism. This, among leadership's other consistently backwards ideals and policies, just reduced morale more and more. The worst part was that it wasn't hard to see why their vision wouldn't work. Leadership was just stubborn and refused to back down or admit that they're wrong even after negative reception from nearly all parts of the process. Instead, leadership chased their vision even harder. So leadership's drive to fulfill their vision despite objections from multiple departments and people was disheartening, and they were also very sensitive to anyone who didn't get with the program. People who agreed with leadership were pulled out of the production process and instead helped promote leadership's vision in public-facing materials. They did this to steer player perception in their favor and then used champion the player's view to enforce a sense of legitimacy. Implementation of features was then handed to team members that already had other tasks on their plate. Gallows humor has been used to cope with how painful playtests of leadership's ideas were. Leadership loved to manipulate data when they... that was all over the place. Leadership loved to manipulate data when there were creative disagreements. They cherry-picked a limited subset of feedback from social media channels that aligned with their vision and insisted that it was actually from the overwhelming majority. It's easy for them to do this since players parroted leadership's propaganda. It hurt to be sidelined in favor of half-baked suggestions from strangers that mostly piggybacked off leadership's already absurd ideas. It hurt even more watching the points of failure people indicated actually lead to the exact disaster they warned leadership about. To top it off, leadership drew terrible conclusions on where mistakes were made and will undoubtedly repeat them again. So not looking very good for the future of the Battlefield franchise if DICE keep their hands on it. Design had become an almost entirely top-down experience. The ideas leadership came up with were designated MVP to shut down criticism and to prevent resources from going to other systems. This made it difficult for everyone else to implement their designs, and even then, leadership demanded revisions and would not discuss their reasoning beyond simply not liking a specific part, nor would they approve the design until those revisions were made. Their cronies did not have to undergo nearly as much scrutiny. Needless to say, these political games are not the kinds of games the company and its employees should be playing. Despite the protests from the people below them, leadership slammed their decisions through with near fanatical conviction. Unsurprisingly, these antics and the overall general lack of confidence have led to dozens of people leaving. So the mass exodus that we saw a couple of years back, those vacancies will inevitably be filled, God, that is a mouthful, by people loyal to leadership regardless of competence, which is absolutely awful. Just a terrible way of managing a business. Moving on. If current leadership is allowed to continue, then the company has no future. Leadership isn't fooling anyone by insisting everything is all right and that we are consistently destroying our competitors. That kind of delusion simply made people's self-preservation instinct stronger and increased their urgency to live an obviously sinking ship. Everyone was painfully aware of leadership's lack of project management skills. Because of leadership's visionary nature, massive scope/feature creep, and an overcomplication of normally very simple systems were a regular occurrence. Leadership already bit off more than it could chew and chose to add even more work to the pile knowing we did not have the time. The whole ordeal was reminiscent of Pentagon Wars, especially with the people in charge getting promotions even after everything blew up in their face. Making another blockbuster hit like past titles isn't completely out of reach, but leadership is going in the exact opposite direction. Wait a few years for the current leadership and their cronies to be promoted to positions of irrelevance, then consider coming here. If the company survives that far into the future, maybe producing wildly successful games will become possible again. So getting onto their management, their advice to management part, the current leadership is clearly not ready to lead. Just because you like another employee does not mean they should be seniors in roles they do not understand. Regardless of how much experience they have elsewhere, they need to be placed in roles they can perform. Be realistic about your plans. Massively increasing scope when we already have agreed on deadlines is a recipe for disaster, which can't be understated here. Scope creep kills projects and is something to avoid instead of something to practice. If you dismiss someone's fears and it becomes a reality, you should probably take what they're saying more seriously, especially if it's coming from more than one person. The previous generation being present and taking the hands-off approach is admirable, but not working. Intervene before it's too late, otherwise current leadership's drive to prove itself will spell certain disaster for everyone still here. Stop making overly idealistic assumptions about how our players actually play. There's a giant disconnect between the ideal leadership chases and how the game works out in the wild. Continuing to design games around some fantasy will only end in failure. So, that was quite the read, but very well articulated on this employee's part. And this is a former employee, so from 2019. That is quite a mouthful on and giving us pretty good insight into how the management works over at DICE and EA, or specifically DICE, I guess it would be here. So pretty grim, honestly. I wasn't expecting so many negative reviews and so many things pointing to poor management, but then again, with how Battlefield 2042 launched, I can't say I'm surprised. And I want to just end off this video with a little tidbit from my own personal experience. A good manager, like, nobody's born to lead, right? Nobody is born to be in a management position. And it is a skill that you will learn with time, but you have to learn it from the right people. And one of the most important things you can have as a manager or a leader of some kind is to accept criticism. Sometimes it's okay, like, you'll have bad ideas, that happens. And the best thing you can do is listen to the people that have boots on the ground, so to speak. So the developers in this case, the QA testers, the engineers, the designers, I already said that, the artists and everybody else who works with the engine itself, listen to those people. Those guys are the ones who are going to work on these systems, these projects, the scope of, or everything that you have in your head. Those people are going to work on it to make it a reality. And completely negating those people's, those employees' feedback and constructive criticism, probably in most cases, to just be hell-bent on pushing out your own vision is a terrible, terrible way to be a leader. And I think that is what's happening in the DICE leadership. And we talked about nepotism, promoting people that maybe should not be in the role they are in, which is also a very, very bad thing to do. You should promote people that know what they're doing, especially in designer roles, because just because somebody was good at designing a puzzle game doesn't mean they know what they're doing when it comes to making a multiplayer first-person shooter. So, unfortunately, yeah, as I said, it's pretty grim reading these reviews. I'll leave the link if you guys want to go and read them for yourselves. Just be aware you do need to make an account for these. And there are, how many more reviews do we have here? Look at all these 2 stars, man. They're, good Lord. Advice to management: take better care of your employees. Promote people who deliver. Listen to your community and customers. Listen to your staff. They are the hired professionals. 3 stars. Cons: multiple failed projects. Management, what is this? Unfortunately, management allows this as they're part of it. What is this? There's a clique here that consists of people who have been here since before the studio took the DICE name. They are friendly to your face, but ultimately only look out for each other. Okay, that's really bad. Again, 2 stars. 2 stars. Gee, look at this other review. This is massive. 1 star. Like, what is this? What is happening for so many people to leave bad reviews? Like, they seriously need to sit down and look at the hierarchy in the company and be like, okay, we need to restructure this, because the people that are in leadership roles have no fucking clue what they're doing, clearly, because Battlefield 2042 is a complete dumpster fire right now and has been for the better part of 4 months now. So there needs to be some serious look into what the hell's happening over there, and they obviously need to restructure and get people who are willing to learn in management positions and listen to feedback from their employees, the people that are doing all the work. Advice to management: start admitting that you have problems. So yeah, this is a long ass video and I apologize. We are getting on 24 minutes here. So I'm going to stop rambling. I was about to say start, but I've been rambling long enough. So I'm going to stop rambling here. Let me know what you think about all this. Does it open up a lot of information that you had no idea of? Like, does this give you a pretty good picture of how it works over at DICE? What you think about all this? Do you think this is what caused most of the problems with the past 2 launches? So Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 2042? Leave all that in the comment section down below. I might make a follow-up video and read more reviews, maybe, if you guys want. But anyways, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.